Alright, so we're gonna get started on our pallet doors. I've got a little bit of it cut, but I've got to finish measuring out this side to the right width and cutting it to the right width and height so we can start framing it up and making it pretty. Alright, so one of the things to remember when working with pallets, pallets are generally square. Generally square. They're not actually square. So I've got my width cut, so I'm about to cut the width. Now I'm going to do the actual squaring work with the trim boards. So remember, you don't count on your pallets actually being square. They're probably not going to be. You're going to have to use trim to actually get them square. So we're going to cut this. I've already got one side cut. We're going to cut this side, and then it will be then we'll worry about our height and go with that. Alright, so we've got our pallets cut to width. Now I'm going to go measure my height and get them cut to height. Now one thing to remember with working with pallets is one side generally has more boards than the other side. So pick the best side, you know. Use that one. So right now we're going to get our height measured, get our boards cut to height, and then we can start working on the rest of the door. All right, so as usually happens when working with pallets, the measurement you need is right on a pallet board. That's okay. Crowbar and a good pulling hammer. And remember, when I work with pallets, I always usually use trim boards, which helps negate the issues of, you know, having things hit right where you need them to, or boards on the pallets hit right where you need them to. So we're just going to pull these boards, and then we will compensate that with our trim boards when we put the door together. All right, so we put one board back here, but this gets us right about where we need to be for the height on our door. And now here's the crappy part about working with pallets. There's nails, lots of nails. Now the reason I cut this off first where I tried pulling it, I didn't want to break the pallet boards. And now that I've got this off, I can knock all the pieces of wood off pretty easy. And now you can see I'm left with all these nails. Now I need this board because I had to cut my width here. So I'm going to move these boards over from where I cut them 36 and put them back in here for support. Now when working with pallets, it's real important to remember because they are nowhere near dimensional or square. So make sure and remember which boards went with what pallets. That will make your life a lot easier because these are all off by varying degrees, which tends to be a lot. Construction hammer like this also makes a good bit of difference. I'm not even sure what this is called. What kind of hammer? I've had this hammer for years, but it's a little bit easier than a crowbar because, like I said, the worst thing about pallets is the nails. And sometimes they come out and sometimes they don't. I like to pull as many as I can so that when I am cutting or putting new nails in, I don't have to worry about messing up saw blades. And these are going to be a booger. So we're just going to take our cutoff blade, cut these nails, and then we're going to put these pieces of pallet back in here on the sides to give the strength to the sides of our doors. Sometimes you just can't get them out because they do use big old nails and little wood. That's all it takes. Now if you have a Sawzall, I do have a Sawzall. However, I kind of smoked my Sawzall this morning when we were picking these pallets up. So if you have a Sawzall, you can cut these things apart with a Sawzall. If you don't, you can rip them apart, either pull the nails and then cut them, or whatever works best for you. Alright guys, so we've got the base of our pallet door built. We got everything reconnected. It's the right size. And tomorrow we're going to get started on making this door really cool. You'll be amazed what you can do with pallets. Not easy. Yeah, pallets generally can get really cheap or for free. Sometimes you got to wonder if they're worth the trouble. but you can make some really cool looking stuff with them. So right now I am going to do a proud dad brag. My son got word today that he was awarded his ROTC scholarship, full scholarship to Florida Institute of Technology. Very hard school to get into, so couldn't be prouder of that kid right now. And shoot, it's already after 7, but I'm gonna go grill him some steak kebabs with onions, pineapples, zucchini, green pepper, and rice, and make him a celebration dinner. So I'm gonna knock off for the day, and tomorrow we will finish getting the chicken Taj Ma Coop all put together and get our chicks relocated into it. Alright guys, so this is as far as we got before we lost our daylight. And now we are going to finish this thing up. So I got some pieces of the sawmill lumber here. And like you see, it's not the perfect sawmill lumber, but it's going to do just fine. And we're going to start finishing up our pallet door. Got it all cut, got everything set up here. So now it's time to start doing two things. One's going to be making it pretty, and in doing that, we're going to make it functional. So let's see what we can get done. So making our chicken coop door, I decided to break out my compound miter saw here. It's going to make a lot shorter work and a lot better work cutting our 45s and doing our trim work. So, you know, with my compound miter saw, I can, you know, adjust my angles and bevels and get everything just right, make it look a little bit better and a little quicker than using a skill saw. So we've got a good start. We've got our outer trim on, and what this is going to do is it's going to hold this thing together a lot sturdier. Still not going to move it until I get my center bracing on, and then we're going to flip it, put our chicken wire down on the back, and then add more bracing to the back, which will do two things. It will help hold our chicken wire as well as give the door even more support. right, about got the front done. I think that's gonna look pretty good standing up next to our coop. We'll check it out here. All right, so we've got the front of it done, and we're just going to go in here and do a test fit. All right, so when you are working on a chicken coop or anything you want to keep critters out of with hardware cloth is really kind of one of the hardest things on the planet to work with. But when you have chickens and such and you want to keep raccoons, especially raccoons, out, because raccoons are tenacious, and they can bust through things you wouldn't think they would be able to bust through. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set our hardware cloth down. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around the bottom, and I'm going to cut it to fit. And then we're going to take our crown stapler and we're going to staple this down. Then we're going to take our trim boards I just cut and we're going to sandwich them. So these trim boards right here, they do serve two purposes. Once they reinforce the pallets because it's two separate pallets. Plus it also is going to make it's going to be extremely hard for a raccoon or anything to get in here because the hardware cloth is going to be sandwiched between them. So now we're going to get to this part and then try and get our door hung tonight. And then first thing in the morning, we're going to be doing the outside part of the hardware cloth and getting our little pullets moved inside. So this door is solid now. It is not going anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and pre-hang my hinges over here. We got some hinges. So we're going to go ahead and set our hinges up. I'm going to get them measured based on the bracing on the door and put our hinges here. And we're going to go ahead and get this door hung up so we can see how everything looks. right, so it's not perfect. Really probably could have used some extra help to get this thing squared up a little bit. But considering it's made out of just rough cut lumber and old used pallets, got less than a probably ½ inch, probably ½ inch difference. Door opens up, I mean it just barely touches, which is good. Now because of how I did build it with this one, I should have set this out to the side. Me being kind of picky, I'll probably put a piece of trim up here to go between these two pieces. But I think it looks pretty good. And there's not really going to be anything getting through this. Now I'm going to take some scrap pieces here to seal up, or some more hardware cloth, and seal up in there so that nothing can get through. But it's getting kind of late, and I think it's probably about time to call it a night.